In this video, I'm going to talk about how to install DataPower appliance in a Windows PC. If you are wondering how to install DataPower appliance in your Windows machine, typically Windows 11, then this video is for you. There are two ways in which this can be done. One, which will slow down your PC. Of course, you won't want that. Second one is, which is much more efficient than the first version. The version that is going to slow down your machine uses Docker desktop. So you can download the Docker desktop and then you can have DataPower installation on top of it. This will inevitably slow down your Windows 11 machine. That's my experience so far with it. There is another way in which this can be done, and I'm going to talk about that today. This is equally easy, plus it has added advantage that beyond setting up the DataPower appliance, you can utilize this method as a developer space where you can pretty much do any kind of development that you want. So let's get started. To get started with this, you will have to go to Microsoft Store. On the Microsoft Store, you're gonna search for what you call Ubuntu. Let's see. And there are various versions of Ubuntu that you see. Ubuntu 22, Ubuntu 20, Ubuntu 24, etc., etc. You can go ahead and download the latest version. All of them are free, so it will not charge you anything. You just click on the Get button. This downloads Ubuntu 24.04 image on your Windows PC, and after that the installation starts. It is an automatic process, so I'm going to not show you that installation process in this video, but the idea is pretty much simple. You click on the Get and the entire installation process begins. It will take you around few minutes depending upon your connection speed to complete this process. Assuming that you have completed this process and assuming that Ubuntu is now running on your Windows machine, we can now go ahead and check that. So let us go and search, and here I need to say Ubuntu. I have Ubuntu 22.04 installed, and you need not have to run it as an administrator. You just click on you just hit the enter button and it will show you a command line interface. Here, I would like to point out that in your Windows machine, you need to enable the WSL. If you haven't enabled the WSL, this installation of Ubuntu will fail. So WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux, provides the platform on top of which this Ubuntu operating system is installed. Remember that this is not going to create any kind of different partition in your machine or not create any kind of MBR, master boot record in your machine. So you are pretty much safe. Consider it like an app that you install on your Windows machine. So you are now looking at the WSL powered Ubuntu 22 operating system, and I'm going to say clear. Now this is the starting point for us. Treat it as a Linux operating system, and you need to install the Docker engine on top of it. Remember, not Docker desktop, but Docker engine on top of it. There are two advantages of it. One, it is not going to install anything on your Windows PC per se, meaning there is no change in registry or so. So even if you are using your corporate laptop, you will not be, nobody will be able to identify what you are running as part of this operating system. Second, it provides you a nice Linux environment where not only you can practice the Docker and related apps, but you can do pretty much any development which you may wish to do in a Linux environment. So how to install Docker on top of it? Okay, so next step is to install Docker engine on this Linux operating system. There are plenty of tutorials out there to install Docker engine on Ubuntu. So I'll leave it there, but we'll give you a little bit of hint. So you go to any browser and you search installing Docker engine on Ubuntu. Remember that once again, I'm talking about installing Docker engine, not Docker desktop. So you will find tutorials which references Docker desktop. You will find tutorials that references installing Docker engine. So you will have to focus on this engine part. Okay. So this is the page which you can use to install Docker engine, and there are various Ubuntu versions. Irrespective of that, the entire process works pretty much good. So you can copy this and you can simply start pasting it into your Linux environment, and things will work. So all these commands that you see here, they need to be installed, run one by one. Do not just copy it from here and start running it. It may not work or give you the required configuration. So I would suggest that you copy it line by line and then you paste it. Some commands are multi-line, for example, this one. So you got to copy this and you got to paste this. Assuming that you are done with this setup, now the next step is to test your Docker setup. So we'll go back to this and we'll say Docker container ls. Now, if this doesn't work, and if you see that there is some kind of error related to access or socket daemon, then perhaps you should try sudo docker container ls. And it will ask you for a password. So I'm going to give it the password and then it works. Okay, so for me, either of them works. But if for you this doesn't work, which means that you have not followed perhaps the Linux post install procedure. So here you see that there is a Linux post install, and you click on that. It will take you to a page, and here the setup 1, 2, 3. These three commands you got to execute in order to set up your users properly so that it has the required access. Fine. So here I have the Docker running properly. I'm going to clear this screen. Now that we are done with the first part, where we installed the basic framework on our Windows 11, we can proceed with the second part, which is installing the DataPower appliance in your Windows machine. For this, we'll have to first pull the DataPower Docker image. Unfortunately, the image that used to be there on the Docker Hub is no longer supported by IBM. So there is an image in IBM icr.io which can be used by developers for development and testing. It cannot be used for any commercial purposes, but it can be used as a base image on top of which you can do any sort of hands-on practice. This is the image location. So I'm going to copy this image location, and we'll come back here and we'll say Docker image pull, and then let us see whether it is able to pull the image or not. So it has started pulling the image. Here I would like to caution, some people might try datapower-limited:latest. This may not work because there is no such tag as latest in icr.io. Second, you see that I have not provided any kind of credentials so far, which means this is something that you can download without having any credentials on icr.io site. This image is close to 1.7 GB in size, so it's going to take a while for it to download. Now, while it downloads, I'm going to open a new window on this for this Ubuntu, and I'm going to create certain directories which I will need anyways after the image download process is complete. So let's go and search for Ubuntu once again. Just press the enter, and I have a second window open over here. So first one is showing you the downloads. I'll leave it there, let it download. The second one, where I'm going to create certain folders. First, I'm going to create the top level folder called DataPower. Fine. I'll get inside DataPower. Then I'll create 3 folders over here. Remember, these folders are config, local, and certs. Let me check whether it is certs or cert. Oh, it's certs folder. Okay, fine. So I think it should be cert folder. Config, local, and cert. Yep, that's the folder. Let us check. You have 3 folders: config, local, and cert. Let's go back. Say so I'm providing full access on this DataPower appliance. Now, if I go inside it, you can see what are the permissions. You have the permissions of the previous command over here. You can see that, and you can see the permissions here. This is important because without permissions, it will be difficult for your appliance to work. So make a note of the folders as I created them. Make a note of the subfolders I created them, and make a note of how I change the permission on the top level folder recursively. Now, I think download has some progress here. I still can see that the download process is still continuing. Now, our folder creation is complete, so we have nothing to do here except to wait. I'm pausing the video so that I can resume it after the download process is complete. Now you can see that the download process is complete. So let us verify if this image really is in the machine or not. Docker image ls. Yes, the image is in machine, and I fired this Docker command because I also wanted to copy the image ID over here. Copy the image ID and place it separately. This is my image ID. Good. Next one. Now we'll have to get inside the directory that we have created. In fact, it is already open in a second window, so I can go back in the second window. I can just clear this. Make sure that you are inside the DataPower folder over here, and then you are supposed to fire this command. This command, replace image ID with whatever you have copied. It's a standard Docker command. What it does is it utilizes the image to spawn a container. Now I'll explain it a little bit. This is Docker run command in an interactive mode. So it will spawn the container in an interactive mode. This one is a volume mount. What is it? What it is mounting? It's mounting the config folder into the DataPower config. Again, it's mounting the local folder into DataPower local folder. And same goes for the cert folder. So these are the folders, these are the volumes that are mounted. In fact, in simple words, these are folders which are mounted as a volume inside the container, DataPower container, which we're going to create. You got to accept the license and make sure that interactive is true. And then you have certain ports over here. These ports are here to map container port to the host port so that you can work with this DataPower appliance from outside the container. So this one exposes the web GUI. This one for XML management. This one is for SSH. This one is for REST-based interface. And this port range is our application port range, which means whatever objects that you're going to create inside the DataPower, for example, multi-protocol gateway or web services proxy or XML firewall or any other object that you create, make sure that its front-side handler is listening on ports that is within this range, inclusive, which means starting from 8000 all the way up to 8010. So these are the port ranges which I have kept for installing our application. Okay. Here I gave the container name as IDG, and this is the image ID. So without further delay, let's copy this command and go back to our command line interface, which is right here. Paste it and run it. Good. It's starting up. Now it gave us the login prompt. Because this is the first time your container, your DataPower appliance is starting up in your machine, you got to do certain basic configurations. We are going to log in into the appliance and we'll do this basic configuration. The user ID and password to log in here is admin. Now type in CO, you're into configuration mode, and here type in web management. Now here say admin state enabled. Type in exit. Say write mem. This is to save whatever changes we have done, and you can exit from here. Good. Back to login prompt. Now we'll open our browser. Okay, so let's point our browser to DataPower appliance that we have created locally. To do that, say and here you see a potential security risk. No worries. Click on advanced, ignore it. Go ahead. You have a DataPower interface. This is the brand new appliance that you have just installed. To log on to this appliance, type in admin as username and password. Keep everything as default and just click on login. Bingo, you can see the DataPower interface now, and from here you can do whatever you like to do here on the DataPower. So this completes the second part where we have installed the DataPower appliance successfully and we are able to access it through a browser. Now comes part 3. Part 3 is about shutting down this DataPower appliance and restarting it. So let's get started with part 3. To complete part 3, you need to go back to the command line interface. So here, this is the command line interface where our DataPower is running. We had another one, which was here. So you come back here and find out the container ID. You can see this is the container ID of our appliance. So I'm going to say now docker container stop, and here you will see that appliance will go down. Okay, so we can see the echo back, which means that this command is successful, and you will see that this container became non-responsive. So if I reload this page, it is not responding now. Okay. So in a moment it will time out and it will show unable to connect. Yep, it's showing unable to connect. How do we start the appliance one more time? To start the appliance, you can see that this one, the window where we have the appliance running, it got closed and we are back to the command prompt. So either of them, I mean, go back here, whichever window you want, you can go and you can simply say docker containers start 09. Yep. Okay. Echo back. You should wait for a couple of seconds to let the DataPower boot. Once the boot process is complete, you can consider it like it takes 5 to 10 seconds to come up. You can go back to your browser window and you can reload this browser window. You will see that shortly it will load the DataPower login page and we'll be able to log in back again. Fine, you can see the DataPower login interface once again. Like before, you can go ahead and log in and you can do whatever you want to do on the DataPower. So that's pretty much the end of it. Now I'll summarize. In this video, you learn how to prep for DataPower appliance installation in your Windows machine. Then you saw how to pull the image and do some basic configurations to kick off the appliance. And third one, you saw how to stop and start the appliance. You notice that some of the settings that we did, like enabling the web GUI and so on, that setting we no longer have to do every time when we start the container. Okay, so that's only the first time setting, and next onwards you do not have to do that. That's pretty much of it. Enjoy learning.